Have you ever felt lost, standing in the middle of a vast library? Around you are thousands, millions of books, each promising to answer the most important question: how to live correctly. One book screams about the need to build a career, another about the importance of spiritual enlightenment. A third teaches you to be tough and get what you want. A fourth calls for gentleness and acceptance. And so you stand, surrounded by this deafening chorus of others' wisdom, and you feel not inspiration, but a paralyzing confusion. In our information age, we have access to more knowledge than any emperor of the past. But for some reason, instead of becoming wiser and more confident, we feel more lost than ever. We search for answers on Google. We scroll through social media feeds, studying the filtered lives of other people, trying to copy their route to happiness. We buy online courses that promise to reveal the secret formula for success. We listen to podcasts, watch interviews, read biographies. We have turned our lives into an endless search for the right instruction, the right map. And in this search, we miss one simple but terrifying thing. We are looking for the wrong map. We are looking for it in the external world, while the only true map has always been inside us. This feeling of being lost, this sense that you are not living your own life but constantly checking someone else's guidebook, has deep psychological roots. Carl Jung called this state the dominance of the persona. As we've already discussed, the persona is our social mask, the image we create to be accepted and loved. But where does this image come from? We don't invent it out of thin air. We assemble it like a mosaic from fragments of others' expectations. First, from the expectations of our parents. With the best intentions, they hand us the first map of our lives. It marks good professions, correct hobbies, safe paths. They draw this route based on their own experience, their fears, and their unfulfilled dreams. And we, in order not to lose their love, begin our journey according to this map. Then society takes up the baton. School, university, work. We are shown glossy brochures depicting a successful life. We are told at what age we should get married, when to have children, what car to buy to confirm our status. This collective noise of opinions becomes the background music of our lives. And without even noticing, we begin to adjust our dance to it. And then the most powerful and insidious cartographer bursts into our lives: social media. This is no longer one map, but millions of contradictory maps at once. One blogger shows the path to happiness through asceticism and meditation, another through luxury and travel. One calls for building a perfect family, another for enjoying freedom. And as we look at this kaleidoscope of other people's lives, we feel only one thing: whatever we do, we are still doing something wrong. Our life seems dull, wrong, inadequate compared to these bright, curated pictures. Living by someone else's map is always living at half strength. You can achieve the goals marked on it. Get a diploma, find a prestigious job, get married. But even at the peak of this success, a vague feeling of emptiness will haunt you. The joy of achievement will be fleeting because the goal was not yours. You have arrived at the destination indicated on the map, but your soul did not strive to go there. This state manifests itself in specific symptoms. Chronic indecisiveness. You cannot make a choice because you do not know what you really want and what others expect of you. Emotional swings. You are either enthusiastic about a new idea you've seen somewhere, or you fall into apathy, realizing that it is alien to you. Constant comparison of yourself with others, which inevitably leads to envy or self-deprecation. We lose ourselves in this noise of opinions. Our own quiet inner voice seems so unreliable compared to the loud and confident voices of experts, gurus, and simply successful-looking people. We stop trusting our feelings, our desires, our intuition. We forget how to be alone with ourselves, because in silence we risk facing the frightening question: what do I really want? But sooner or later, a moment comes when living by someone else's map becomes unbearable. It could be a crisis, a loss, a deep disappointment. It is the moment when you realize that all the roads on this map lead not to happiness, but to exhaustion. And it is at this point of despair that we get a chance. A chance to put aside all the foreign guidebooks, all the imposed routes. A chance to admit that we are lost. And to finally start looking for our own inner compass. The only navigation tool that never lies and that was given to us at birth. If living by someone else's map is the path to being lost, then where can we find our own? Where is that reliable navigator that will guide us through the fog of uncertainty and the storms of others' opinions? The answer Carl Jung gave is simple and at the same time infinitely complex. This navigator is already built into us. It has been with us since birth. This is our inner compass. Jung called this inner center, this source of true knowledge, the self. Let's pause for a moment and separate this concept from what we are used to calling our I. In everyday life, by I, we usually mean our ego. The ego is the center of our consciousness. It is the voice in our head that says, I want, I think, I am afraid. The ego is our manager, our strategist. Its main task is to help us survive and adapt in this world. It strives for success, for recognition, for security. Constantly analyzes, plans, compares. And it is the ego that fears judgment the most because for it, social approval is the key to survival. But the self is something much greater. If we imagine our psyche as a kingdom, then the ego is the prime minister who bustles about, manages daily affairs, and constantly worries about the opinions of neighboring kingdoms. And the self is the wise, silent monarch who sits on the inner throne. He does not interfere in every little thing, but he is the true center and supreme ruler of the entire kingdom. The self encompasses not only our consciousness but also our boundless unconscious. It is our wholeness, our totality. It is the self that is our inner compass. But why do we so rarely use this perfect instrument? Why does its needle so often go astray? The answer is simple. Its voice is a quiet whisper, and we live in a deafeningly loud world. Imagine a ship's captain trying to hear the quiet hum of the engine to see if everything is okay. But on the deck at that time, music is blaring, the crew is shouting, and passengers are giving thousands of contradictory pieces of advice on where to sail. In such chaos, it is almost impossible to hear anything. So it is in our lives. The loud music is the continuous flow of information from the outside. The crew's shouts are the demands and expectations of society, family, colleagues. And the passenger's advice is the opinions of millions of experts from the internet. But there is another loudest voice, the voice of our own ego. Our prime minister, our ego, is constantly talking to us. The speech is logical, rational, and full of convincing arguments. You must accept this job because it is prestigious and well-paid, says the ego. You can't refuse this request, or people will think badly of you, it insists. You need to look like this to be loved, it persuades. The voice of the ego is the voice of fear and benefit, and we have become accustomed to considering it our own. And how does the self speak? How does our inner compass speak? It almost never uses words. Its language is the language of sensations, images, and intuition. This is that quiet whisper. The self speaks to us through our body. When you are faced with a choice, and the mere thought of a certain decision causes an inexplicable feeling of heaviness in your chest, a tightness in your stomach, a feeling as if you were shrinking, this is the voice of the self telling you, this is not your path. And conversely, when another option evokes a feeling of lightness, warmth, expansion, as if you are taking a deep breath after holding it for a long time, this is your compass showing the right direction. The self speaks to us through intuition. It is that sudden, illogical knowing that comes from nowhere. When you meet a person and your mind says, he is perfect, all the facts are in his favor. But something inside you quietly whispers, stay away. This is the voice of the self. We are used to dismissing these hints, calling them nonsense. Because the ego cannot explain or control them. The self speaks to us through dreams. Jung considered dreams to be a direct message from our unconscious. The images that come to us in dreams often symbolically point to what we ignore in our conscious life, to our inner conflicts, and to possible ways of resolving them. Sometimes the self speaks to us through so-called synchronicities, meaningful coincidences. When you are agonizing over a question, and suddenly a randomly opened book, a line from a song on the radio, or a sign on a billboard gives you a strikingly accurate answer. The ego will call it a coincidence, but the self knows it is a sign. Getting to know your inner compass is, in essence, the process of learning this new wordless language. It is the art of shifting your attention from the loud and logical arguments of the ego to the quiet and seemingly irrational hints of the soul. It is the path from the head to the heart, from external authority to internal authority. Your inner compass does not promise you an easy and carefree life. It will not always lead you along the shortest and safest road. Sometimes its needle will point to a path full of difficulties and trials, but it will always be your path, the only path on which you can become who you are destined to be. And at the end of this path, you will find not just success or approval, but something incomparably greater: wholeness, meaning, and deep inner peace. So we know that this inner compass, this self, exists. We understand that it speaks to us in the quiet language of sensations and intuition. But how can we learn to read its signals in the deafening noise of everyday life? How to distinguish its wise whisper from the loud and panicked cries of our ego? This is the art of listening to silence. And, like any art, it requires not talent, but practice. Not heroic efforts, but gentle, patient, and constant attention. Let's look at concrete, practical steps that will help you tune the receiver of your soul to this quiet but life-saving frequency. The first and most fundamental step is to create moments of literal silence. You need to consciously set aside small islands in your day, free from external noise. Start with 15 minutes. Find a time, in the morning before the world wakes up, or in the evening when all the work is done, when no one will disturb you. Sit in a comfortable chair, turn off your phone, and just be. At first, it will be unbearable. Your mind, accustomed to the eternal race, will begin to thrash about like a caged animal. It will throw lists of things to do at you, snippets of conversations, anxious thoughts about the future. You will feel like you are wasting time. This is normal. This is the resistance of your ego, which is afraid of silence because in silence it loses its power. Your task is not to fight these thoughts. Do not try to stop them or chase them away. This will only strengthen them. Just observe them. Imagine you are sitting on the bank of a river, and your thoughts are leaves floating by. You see them, you note their presence, but you don't jump into the water to grab them. You just let them float on. And then, at some point, between one leaf and another, a pause will arise. A second of silence. Then another. These pauses are the very space in which you can hear the voice of the self. At first, it will be a barely perceptible sensation. But the more regular your practice, the longer and deeper these moments of inner silence will become. You are creating a void that your inner wisdom can fill. The second step is to develop bodily awareness. Your body is the resonator of your soul. It never lies and reacts to reality much faster and more honestly than your mind. Learn to listen to it. Throughout the day, ask yourself a simple question. What am I feeling in my body right now? Standing in line, sitting in a meeting, talking to someone. For a moment, bring your attention inward. Where is the tension in your body right now? Maybe your jaw is clenched, or your shoulders are raised to your ears. Is there warmth in your chest, or, conversely, a cold lump? What is happening in your stomach? Lightness or heaviness? This is not just physiology. These are direct clues from your compass. Before making a decision, from the smallest to the most important, listen to your body. When you think about option A, what happens? Is there a feeling of expansion, lightness, flow? This is a bodily yes. When you think about option B, Does a feeling of contraction, discomfort, as if something inside you is closing, arise? This is a bodily no. Trust these signals more than the most logical arguments. Your body knows the truth about what is good for you and what is not. The third step is spontaneous, aimless creativity. Our ego is always result-oriented. It wants everything we do to be useful, effective, approved by others. But the self manifests itself not in the result, but in the process. Set aside time for creativity that has no purpose other than the act of creation itself. Take a sheet of paper and just move a pencil across it, without trying to draw anything specific. Turn on some music and move as your body asks, without thinking about whether it looks beautiful. Open a diary and start writing a stream of consciousness. Everything that comes to mind, without censorship or punctuation. In these moments, you turn off your inner critic, your manager ego, and give a direct voice to your unconscious. What appears on the paper or in your dance may surprise you. It may be symbols, images, feelings that you have suppressed for a long time. This is a direct conversation with yourself. The fourth step is the conscious reduction of the information flow. Our inner compass is a delicate instrument, and we are constantly trying to use it in the epicenter of an information storm. To hear yourself, you need to consciously reduce the number of other people's voices you let into your head. Put yourself on an information diet. Set aside one day a week when you don't read the news, don't go on social media, don't listen to podcasts. Instead, go for a walk, read a paper book, talk to a loved one in person. You will be surprised how much clearer and calmer your own thoughts become when you stop drowning them out with others. These 4 practices, silence, listening to the body, spontaneous creativity, and an information diet, are not complex techniques available only to a select few. They are simple and natural ways to return to yourself. They are not something you need to do to achieve something. They are something you need to do just to be. And the more often you practice this art of listening to silence, the louder and clearer the voice of your inner compass will sound to you. It will become your most reliable friend and advisor, and you will realize that all the answers you so desperately sought in the external world have always been inside you, patiently waiting for you to finally be quiet and listen. When you begin to practice the art of listening to silence, when the needle of your inner compass slowly comes to life and begins to show direction, you inevitably face powerful internal resistance. This is not just laziness or lack of discipline. It is an active, sometimes aggressive opposition from the part of us that fears change the most, from our ego. And here we come to the fourth, incredibly important stage of our journey. We need to understand the nature of this resistance. We need to realize why our mind is so desperately afraid to trust our soul. Imagine a situation. You have been practicing meditation for some time, learning to listen to your body, and now you are faced with a choice: to stay in a stable but boring and exhausting job, or to accept an offer with a lower salary, but in a field that truly inspires you. Your mind, your ego, immediately gets to work, takes out a calculator, tables, builds graphs. It shouts at you, "This is madness. You will lose money. It's unstable. What will people say? You have spent so many years on this career. It's illogical, irrational, dangerous." The ego's arguments always sound very convincing. They are based on past experience, on social norms, on the fear of the unknown. At the same time, yourself, your inner compass, gives completely different signals. The thought of a new job brings warmth to your chest, a feeling of inspiration, as if wings are spreading inside you. And the thought of staying in the old place makes you feel a heaviness in your shoulders and nausea. The voice of the self is illogical. It does not operate with facts. It speaks the language of feels right. And so you find yourself at a crossroads, torn between these two forces. Why does the ego resist so much? First, the ego is by nature a conservative. Its main function, formed by millions of years of evolution, is to ensure our survival. And what is the main guarantee of survival? Stability, predictability, familiar territory. Any change, Any uncertainty is perceived by the ego as a potential threat. A new job, a new relationship, moving to another city. For the ego, this is tantamount to leaving a safe cave for a dark forest full of predators. Therefore, it will do everything possible to keep you in familiar, even if unhappy, conditions. Second, the ego identifies itself with control. It believes that it can calculate, plan, and control everything. It lives in the illusion that if you make the right plan, you can avoid pain and failure. But the prompts of the self, intuition, feelings, spontaneous impulses, are absolutely beyond control. They cannot be measured. They cannot be written into a business plan. For the ego, to trust intuition is like handing over the ship's wheel to an invisible ghost. It is an act of surrender, which for the ego is tantamount to death. Third, the ego is a social construct. It is built and nourished by external recognition. Likes, praise from the boss, parental approval, admiration from friends. This is food for the ego. Therefore, it will always push you towards those decisions that will bring you more social capital, even if these decisions go against your deepest values. The self, on the other hand, is completely asocial. It is indifferent to statuses, trends, and others' opinions. It is oriented exclusively to your inner truth. Understanding this dynamic is the key to overcoming resistance. You don't need to fight your ego. You don't need to hate it or try to destroy it. That would be like fighting your own hand. Jung taught that the path to wholeness lies not through struggle, but through integration. When you hear the panicked voice of your ego, do not argue with it. Instead, treat it like a frightened child. Listen to it. Acknowledge its fears. You can mentally say to it, "Yes, I hear you. I understand that you are afraid. You want to protect me, and I am grateful to you for that. But now I want to try to do things differently. I want to trust another voice." Such a dialogue changes the internal dynamics. You cease to be a victim of your fear and become a wise adult who can calm your anxious part. Another important aspect is the realization that the ego often masks its fears as rational arguments. It will not tell you, "I am afraid," but it is impractical. Not, "I am afraid of what people will think of you," but you need to be a realist. Learn to see behind these reasonable arguments the primal fear that drives them. And finally, the most important step is to start acting despite the ego's resistance. Do not wait for the fear to go away. It will not go away. Start small. Take one small step in the direction your compass points, even if your ego screams about danger. Did you sign up for that course that seems useless to you, but that so beckons your soul? Did you say no to a profitable but boring offer? Did you share your real, vulnerable feelings with a loved one? Every such step is practical proof for your ego that trusting the self does not lead to disaster. With each such step, the balance of power within you will change. The voice of the ego will become quieter and calmer, and the voice of the self louder and more confident. Your prime minister will gradually understand that there is a wise monarch in the kingdom, and his role is not to usurp power, but to serve him. This is how, through awareness and small, brave steps, we learn to emerge from the dictatorship of our mind and enter into a harmonious union with the wisdom of our soul. And so, when you have learned to distinguish the whisper of the self from the cries of the ego, when you have begun to take small, brave steps towards your inner truth, you approach the finale of our journey. You enter a new era of your life. This is life from the center. What does this mean? It means making decisions that you will never regret. Why do we regret our decisions at all? This usually happens for two reasons. Either we make a decision based on fear, under the pressure of others' opinions, and then torment ourselves for the rest of our lives with the feeling that we have betrayed ourselves. We regret not so much the consequences, but our own indecisiveness. Or we make a decision based on purely selfish, rational considerations, benefit, status, convenience, but it does not bring us the expected joy, leaving only emptiness behind. Life from the center is a completely different way of navigating. When you make a decision based on the readings of your inner compass, on a deep bodily and intuitive yes, you gain a surprising freedom from regret. Even if this decision leads you to difficulties, even if the result is not what you expected, even if the whole world tells you that you have made a mistake, deep down you will know that you did the right thing, because it was your true decision. You were honest with yourself. And this feeling of inner rightness gives incredible strength and peace that no external guarantees of success can provide. Imagine you are standing at a fork in the road. One road is wide, straight, paved. A dense stream of cars is moving along it. All the signs and pointers say that this is the right and safe path. This is the path that society approves of. But when you look at it, your soul becomes gray and dreary. The other road is a narrow, winding path leading into a misty forest. There are no signs on it. You don't know what awaits you around the bend. Your mind screams that it is dangerous and stupid. But for some reason, looking at this path, your heart begins to beat faster with anticipation. You feel an inexplicable call. Life from the center is the courage to choose the path. And when you start to live like this, the very quality of your life changes. The anxiety that was the eternal background of your existence gradually disappears. This place is taken by deep trust. Trust not that everything will always be good and smooth. That is an illusion. But trust in your ability to cope with any difficulties that you will encounter on your path. You stop trying to control life and start to cooperate with it. You learn to be in the flow. Your relationships with people become deeper and more honest. You stop playing roles and start just being yourself. And this attracts into your life those who are able to appreciate the real you. False, superficial connections fall away by themselves, like autumn leaves. Those with whom true intimacy is possible remain. You find your work, your calling. It may not be the most prestigious or high-paying activity, but it is the work that, while doing it, you feel that you are in your place. Time ceases to be an enemy that needs to be defeated. It becomes an ally. You enter a state that psychologists call flow, when you are so absorbed in your work that you forget about yourself, about time, about hunger. And this brings the deepest satisfaction. Life from the center does not mean that you will no longer have problems, pain, or disappointments. You are a living person, and this is an integral part of the human experience. But your attitude towards it changes. You stop perceiving difficulties as proof that you are a loser or doing something wrong. You begin to see them as lessons, opportunities for growth, necessary parts of your unique path. As Jung said, what you resist persists. By ceasing to resist life, to fight with it, you allow it to flow through you. And in this flow, you find not only your strength, but also your joy. And perhaps the most important thing, living from your center, you begin to radiate a special light. This is not the light of self-satisfaction or pride. It is the quiet, warm light of wholeness, the light of a person who is at peace with himself. And this light, without wanting to, begins to illuminate the path for others as well. You become a living proof that it is possible to live differently, not from fear, but from love. Not by someone else's map, but by the call of your own heart. This is the ultimate goal of our journey. To find your inner compass is not just to solve your psychological problems. It is to reclaim your life, your unique, unrepeatable, precious life, and to begin to live it in all its fullness, courage, and beauty.